Usually you wouldn't really get a breakdown of something like this on this kind of show, but fortunately, I am the socialist day trader. So I can talk you through this in language that any proletariat will understand. All right. So first, to even understand the story, you have to understand what short selling is. Okay, so when you short a stock, what you do is borrow the stock at a certain price and sell it. That's the mechanism at work. And what you're hoping for, now you owe those shares that you borrowed. You have to give them back, right?
Now, give them back
So,
to who? This is the first thing that I don't understand.
okay, so
Because you borrow it and you sell it immediately at the price you borrow it for. Then what
basically
you're betting on is that the stock will go down so you can sell
exactly.
it, give it back to the person you owe it to at a profit when you buy it back.
That is exactly what short selling is. That's
Okay,
exactly
but
what
who
it
do you
is.
borrow it
So
from? What's the
for
concept there?
example, you shorted Apple at $300. Apple goes down to 150. You buy it back, and there's a special type of purchase called buy to cover. Call it covering. And then, well, it comes through your brokerage. And the brokerage gets it from institutions, I believe, that make their shares available for shorting, because you get paid interest if you offer your shares for shorting. So
Oh,
that
okay,
that
got it.
that's
Okay.
that's what they get out of it.
All right, that makes sense. That was
Like
what I was
you
unclear
pay
on.
interest on those shares.
Right, because it seems like party A, if you will, that's doing the
Like,
lending would have
why would
nothing to
they lend
gain.
it? No,
Right.
no, no.
Okay.
And if it's a stock that's heavily shorted, the interest can get really high. Like you can get into interest that's above 100% kind of interest on shorting certain stocks. Um, okay, so now this is the other thing you have to understand if you've never traded to understand the story. The stock market is heavily manipulated in ways that are legal, barely legal, and totally illegal, but rarely prosecuted. And all of that is directed at parting the retail investor from their money. Okay. So this is a big part of why 80% of day traders lose all of their starting capital in the first year. Part of it is that they don't realize that it's rigged and they're playing it straight and they don't get what the game actually is. So now these huge hedge funds and institutions, they have so much money in the market that they can move the stock with their buying and selling. On top of that, they're not even doing it. You got the HAL 2000 is actually doing most of their trading, and this is called high frequency trading. These computers are trading faster than a human ever could.
That's a 2001 A Space Odyssey reference.
Yes, yes.
See? Got that one.
I trust our listeners and viewers to be up on their cultural references. Um, so okay, so for example, this is how that'll play out on one side. Okay, so the stock is going up, right? You're watching a stock, it's going up. Oh, that looks great. It's going to keep going up. As soon as you buy it, it starts going down, and you're saying, "Oh my God, how could that keep happening to me?" That's not an accident. They have algorithms that tell them when they have sucked in the maximum amount of suckers, and then they start to sell it. That's why that if you're an amateur and you've tried to do this and that keeps happening to you, that's why. Okay, they
By the
as
way, a semi-serious interjection here. Do we have to issue any kind of disclaimer that this is this is not financial advice? I know a lot of people do that.
you know what? I'm going to just for stocks I might discuss and things like that. Like we don't have to discuss it for this. This is like whatever.
All right, good. I
This
just
is
want to
this is
make
just
sure.
big picture. But yes, nothing that I say in this video should be discerned as financial advice. Yes, I am not fucking Mark Cuban by
Right.
any
The
stretch of
ultimate
the
goal of
imagination.
this is to troll the hedge fund people who just took a bath.
Yes, that is ultimately the point.
Yes. This is
Okay,
entertainment.
okay, so these hedge funds really manipulate the market. And the thing that traders hate the most are institutional short sellers. There are hedge funds that specialize in shorting, and they manipulate stocks to no end. Essentially, what they will tend to do is take an enormous short position on a stock, and then they will write a hit piece, ostensibly a research report on the stock, basically pointing out negatives, some true, some not true, some exaggerated, some completely speculative, downplaying any positives about the stock. And basically, that is to panic retail investors into selling the stock so that they can make the money on their short. It's legal, but it's complete stock manipulation. Something else that they do that's really more in a gray area, but nobody does anything about it, is okay. In the aftermarket and the pre-market, which is not the main market, volume is very low. So particularly with stocks that are not heavily traded, you don't have to sell a lot of stock to force the price down on the stock. So what short sellers will do will be to take a short position on a lightly held stock with a small market cap, meaning it can be moved more easily. And they'll also buy a certain amount of that stock. And what they'll do is as soon as the market closes, they'll sell 3 shares, then 20 minutes later sell 5 shares. They do that all through the aftermarket, all through the pre-market. So I'm explaining all this to understand why what happened and why it's so poetic in a way. Now, for as long as I've been trading, and I'm sure much longer than that, there's been speculation amongst retail traders where they congregate, like stock twits, which is basically Twitter for stock trading, and Reddit, which will become a key player in this story, and speculated, what we should really do? We should all get together and buy the same stock and refuse to sell it and destroy all the shorts and just nobody sell any shares, and we'll just keep buying it until we drive them into bankruptcy.
Right. Let me just interject something here before you do that, because to the layman like me who has been researching this over the last 48 hours, the reason that fucks the short sellers really hard is because short selling is especially risky, because unlike traditional trading, when you attempt to short a stock, the potential losses are infinite. When you buy a stock intending for it to go up, you can only lose what you put in, because the stock can't be lower than zero. Exactly. But if you buy a stock at $500 a share and you hope it goes down, well, yeah, basically the profit loss dynamic is reversed, because there's no limit to how much a stock can increase in value. So if a bunch of people band together and say, we're going to fucking juice this thing, and it goes up to $3,000 a share, now the short sellers are really in massive debt, because they have to they owe that stock back, and when they go to buy it to give it back, they sold it for 500 a share. Now they got to pay whatever 3,000 a share. Just using numbers out of my ass here, but that's the idea.
And you also have to remember, you have your big institutional short sellers, but you also have some big whales who are trading on their own, who are trading a lot on margin, which is borrowed money. Usually your margin capacity is about 4-to-1 for the cash that you have in. So at any given time, you can be holding 75% more stock than capital that you've invested. So a lot of times, like, this bankrupts people. Like, this can bankrupt people.
Well, that Melvin Capital said they were going to potentially have to file for bankruptcy early next week.
Yep. And I believe Citron may have exited their short position.
Also, these short sellers, when you talk about writing articles, putting hit pieces out in the press, encouraging divestment from the stock, of course, the real world consequences of this are companies go out of business, right? People go out of work.
Yes. And let me also make
this is
clear,
like when the Sopranos bust out the sporting goods store, when the guy
exactly
is
what
in
it
debt to them 45 boxes of ZD.
They're trying to destroy the company.
They see a company going down, and we can loot it on the way down. it's equivalent to jacking
it's
a flat street on the Target that's on fire.
Or it's a company on the way up with a lot of potential. Let's break its back on the way up.
Right.
You know, because usually if people look, I can't tell you how many stocks I've seen where the short sellers claimed that this stock was going bankrupt in 6 months. That I'll give you an example. Plug Power is a big winner right now. All of the alternative energy stocks have been off the hook since Biden won the election. I used to play with Plug Power. Plug usually traded between $1 and $2. The shorts have been claiming that stock is worthless for a decade. It's trading at $70 now, around $70. So I've seen a lot of stocks they made that claim about. Tesla.
Yeah.
The shorts are claiming.
Yeah,
That's why Elon Musk hates the short sellers. They were trying to break Tesla from the beginning, really. As soon as it got on the radar. Okay, so for those of you who have never traded, this whole short selling thing, it might sound to you, you might be listening to this and saying, well, what does that have to do with investment? It just sounds like gambling. Ding, ding, ding. You got it. That's all it is. It's gambling. Now, the Wall Street people who are no different from a political establishment, like the financial press establishment, will justify the existence of short selling by saying they expose bad companies. They expose weak companies. They help to inform investors. Theoretically, but that's not what's really happening. Really, they're manipulating the stock market. When somebody takes a short, because there is no honor among thieves in this business, when somebody takes a short position in a stock and then puts out a scathing analysis of that stock, it tells you absolutely nothing about that stock. It's it's like going to MSNBC for the take on the Democrats. Okay, like it means nothing. You're not going to come away from that report informed in any way, shape, or form. So, as I said, retail traders have speculated forever about what would happen if we did this, but it wasn't really possible before. What made it possible now is the pandemic. Millions, literally millions of new people coming online to trade, combined with the fact that most of those people grew up on the internet. You're talking about most of these new traders are under 35. So very, very social media savvy. That created a perfect storm where one particular Reddit group now has over 2 million members. And basically, they executed the theory. They said, hey, let's look at stocks that are heavily shorted and let's just buy the fuck out of them and drive these guys out of business. So the proof of concept came with the one you've probably heard of, GameStop. GameStop was trading at $3. I think back in November it was at $3. GameStop today hits as high as $380.
Yeah, their chart is like the hockey stick graph, the global warming graph, like literally a straight line down near the bottom, and then just spikes right up. Yeah.
Now, it's one of those things, like it's one of those, this idea is so crazy it just might work. And it has, and because this is part of what's fascinating about it. If you read the message boards and the chat rooms and stock twits, it sounds like you're at a meeting of the Communist Party. Like these guys are like, let's break the backs of those hedge fund motherfuckers. We've had enough of this.
It's an online workers' revolt. It really is.
Because it really is.
The individual reward for all of these individual people is not that much. It's not like everybody who's doing this is getting rich off it, right? They're making, $1,000, $2,000, something like that, right? I mean, you never know.
It depends how you're playing it, man.
Right. But the point is, you're basically if you will, redistributing the fortune that these scumbags were going to make by tanking the company and spreading it around to however many thousand people were in on this plan.
And in a way, the groundwork for this was already laid. The secret to Tesla's success was that Tesla, even as it kept losing money and doing capital raises for all those years, now it's profitable, but only very recently. You have this new generation of millennial investors who just liked the idea of Tesla. So anytime the short sellers could never break it because of that. Anytime it pulled back, these retail investors who just believe that Elon Musk is saving the world would just run in and buy it, you know? So yeah, you could argue that an earlier form of this saved Tesla from bankruptcy. Because if the shorts had their way, yeah, they would have broken that stock. They did what's called short attacks on that stock so many times, I can't even tell you. Now they've given up, but for years and years and years. So Elon Musk, okay, so GameStop was starting to flag a little bit. This is a funny element of this story. GameStop was starting to flag, and then Elon Musk tweeted out GameStonk with a link.
Oh, is that where that came from? Okay.
With a link to the Reddit thread that's Wall Street bets that's really stimulating this. Ran up another 60% after hours on that tweet. Like that gave it like a whole new momentum, because Elon Musk has got to be loving this. He's been at war with the short sellers for the entire existence of Tesla. Is it sustainable? I think it's here to stay. This is kind of like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, though. GameStop is the AOC of this technique. They didn't see it coming.
Right. They're already
It's never going to be this easy again.
Janet Yellen already said something to the idea that, you know, we're looking into it, you know.
Well, you know what happened? You know what happened today that caused me to, and again, this is not financial advice. Okay, so I felt GameStop was too late. It's too wildly speculative for me. I caught AMC early, and AMC went on a big run today from, I think it closed yesterday at like $4.90. It ran to $25. But you know what happened in the pre-market? In the open market, it was never above 20. But you know what happened in the middle of the day? TD Ameritrade changed its margin requirements in order to make it harder to trade GameStop, AMC, you know, Bed Bath and Beyond, BlackBerry. These are all stocks that Wall Street Bets has been throwing people at. And it did a huge dip in the middle of the afternoon, but you know what? The dip got bought and it ran back up and closed at around the high of the day. But it did start to drop again after market. Now, I personally took my money and ran at a certain point right after TD Ameritrade said that, because I said, you know what? They're just the first. Tomorrow, I would not be surprised at all if Robinhood, E-Trade, all the other platforms follow suit, because you know how much pressure they must be getting from the people who really run shit over there. You know, the phone calls they must be getting from Mr. Wonderful.
Well, you saw, yeah. I mean, you saw that in the media. I don't know if you watched any of the media coverage on this.
I thought it was a hoot.
CNBC, right?
These motherfuckers.
That's where my Putin joke came from, because one guy actually said, "We don't know if this is a foreign actor who's instigating this." You know, these are the people.
These motherfuckers. Because look, if you trade, you got to watch some of their stuff, but you watch it very much the way you read the New York Times. It's useful for information, but you have to be aware enough to understand where the spin is, right? Like you separate the information from the spin, right? These motherfuckers who never had anything to say about high frequency trading, never had anything to say about hedge fund short manipulation, never had anything to say about any of that. All of a sudden, and it's fascinating to see this play out in this context, because it is very much the way elites always react to populist uprisings. We have to use the institutions of the state to crush this before it really gains momentum. Because what's happened is now the people are manipulating the market instead of the market manipulating the people, and they don't like it. They don't, it's not, if they had a problem with stock manipulation, there are a dozen things they could be talking about. But
also,
they're the wrong people manipulating it. They don't like who's manipulating it.
But the other poetic part of this is that the people who are manipulating it now are manipulating it to what end? To save GameStop, to save AMC, right? To keep people going to movies, to keep people going to stores, and to keep the workers employed, right? And everything. Whereas these vultures, these mafiosos, do the opposite. This adds no value. This is why nobody can make an honest living in this country anymore, because there's too much money being made by people who do shit like this. These are just looters. They don't create anything. Even in a capitalist society, the idea is that capital creates more capital. This is the opposite, right? This is just a suck, right?
It is all just wild speculation. It really is, and it's been that way for as long as I've traded. Because I mean, look, somebody like me who has only ever traded post 2008, I don't know what a bear market looks like. Like, I don't know what a market where the government can't completely just prop up asset valuations looks like. Because starting in 2008, the government made it very clear, no matter what happens, Wall Street must be protected. So if anyone watching this who, you hear my, politics, would wonder how I got into trading, it's very much, hey, man, the system is so rigged in that direction that if you want to make some money in a society that's rigged that way, basically you need to grab the crumbs that are falling off the table. You cannot make this kind of money in this country anymore as an entrepreneur. You certainly can't make this kind of money anymore working.
Right.
You want to make this money, you have to go where the money is. And the money is on Wall Street because the government has put it there.
And these are the first people, by the way, to tell you how hard they work for their money when you go to tax them, right? You mentioned, that's true. I've never seen an iron worker say, I work hard for my money. I didn't steal it from anybody. I never hear any actual worker bitch that way. The ones who bitch this way are, speaking of MSNBC, Stephanie Rule. Remember when Joe Biden made the bullshit thing? This is between Scranton and Park Avenue. She said, I live near Park Avenue and I work my butt off to get there. Her husband is a hedge fund manager. She got her start in like finance reporting at Bloomberg, which, this is speculation,
right?
No pun intended. That's probably how they met, right? Something like that. It's a big, orgy pool there. And so like these are the people who work, right? These are the creators. These are the makers. They're not makers. They're looters. This is the equivalent of jacking a TV out of a burning target, right? I mean, that's exactly what this is. Sometimes it's worse than that, because sometimes, like what you're saying, is that they will sometimes tank a company that they feel has potential, right? That's what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah. Well, because they see the stock run up and they see an opportunity.
Right.
Like they don't care about nurturing that company. They're just like, oh, all of these retail investors have run this up 400%. Huh.
And these are the people. Perfect. These are also the people who destroyed New York City. These are the people who live in luxury buildings on the Bowery. The old Bowery used to be obviously the Bowery Boys, poor areas where the Bowery Mission is, the homeless shelter. Now it's all glass, ugly luxury buildings with these people living in them. They have no sense of culture. They have no appreciation for anything that New York represents. It's just, a shallow consumer, go. These are the people who live there. These are the people, we're both theater guys. The David Mamet play, my favorite sexist playwright, David Mamet.
Okay, finish that. And I want to make a very important point here about how these people make all that money, because it's not how you think.
All right, well, I'm just going to make a very superficial
point. As far as
point.
the markets go.
There's a line in American Buffalo where Teach is sort of laying on the couch and Don, his, business partner, quote unquote, is on the phone with somebody who's a pain in the ass. And, you could tell the contempt that he has for whoever's on the other end of the phone. And he hangs it up and he says, fucking asshole. And Teach just says, guys like that, I like to fuck their wives. And that's who these people are. These are the kinds of people who, I mean, I'm a married guy, but these are the kinds of people you hope come home to their luxury apartment to find, the doorman with their wife. That's what you hope happens to these people.
Well,
and so this is great. This is fantastic.
I think I saw that porno. The doorman. So okay.
Not even the doorman, the Uber Eats driver. Just make it really,
Yeah, really like class conscious.
Right, really class conscious gig economy. Yeah.
That should be the first of our due dissidence film projects. And we should really make it a class conscious porno.
Hey, there you go. That's a niche.
There's I don't think anyone else is doing that. Actually, that started as a joke, but you know what? In this climate, that would probably make a fortune. Well, if you did all porn that was basically class revenge porn.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, sorry about the digression, folks. Okay, so this is going to shock you if you don't know this already. So the people we were just talking about, who we want to send the Uber Eats driver to plow their significant other to, okay. You think they're making their money from their skill? Most professional money managers lose money. Most of them. Most hedge funds lose money. If you make 30% for your clients in a year as a hedge fund, they celebrate you like Caesar on the chariot, okay? Like you are a fucking god. Now, how are they so goddamn rich then? They're losing all this money. Because you know what? They're not losing their money. They're losing your fucking money.
Exactly. Right.
They get paid their commissions.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid their base. They get paid their millions of dollars no matter what happens to you, you poor schmuck.
Well, that's the Leonardo DiCaprio, Matthew McConaughey scene at The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Refresh my memory.
Well, it's not the same thing in terms of short selling, but he makes the same point. He's like, when they go to sell, keep them on the phone, get them to buy again. They think they're getting rich. They're not. We are, because we're getting the commission in dollars. They're just getting numbers on a screen.
That's it. Right. That's exactly it. And that makes total sense, because listen, I am far from the best trader. I don't like it enough to be into it. Like, so you got people who are into it, like, your friend who could tell you Babe Ruth baseball stats from every season he ever played, that guy. You got people who are like that about stocks, who you could say Nokia and they could tell you the market cap. All right. I'm not one of those people. I have other interests. I'm not, I do not want to be into it like that. And
you're doing pretty well, though. I have a feeling this is the last episode with that backdrop. I have a feeling the next episode we're going to see, the golden, the golden Trump Tower get up behind. You should put that as your backdrop next time.
I'll be wearing like a gold lame bathrobe, smoking a cigar. No, look.
You'll own AMC. You'll be doing a private movie screening in an AMC theater.
Yeah, I'm not even a shareholder now.
I know you. Well, you missed that.
I ditched. But yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen day to day? I mean, that's a whole other thing. Like, if you're a day trader, the rule is to have all your cash out before the market closes. You're never supposed to hold anything overnight. And the reason now I'm not a day trader. I do combination swing and day trading. Swing's like short term hold.
Right.
But the reason for that is anything could happen with AMC tonight. Now, for me, I played it like a day trader. Because of that, I don't want to find out the hard way.
Right.
I am too afraid to wake up to the news that all the other platforms are restricting it. Right. Like, I think it's inevitable. If it's not tomorrow, it's the next day. They cannot allow this. They cannot allow this. It's Ned. You know what this is? It's Ned Beatty in Network. You have meddled with the fundamental forces of nature, Mr. Beale.
I gotta say, man, it's been a year of coping, but man, moments like these, you really wish Bernie were president.
Yeah. Right. Well, he would probably he would like tweet out, I always liked those GameStop Emporiums.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be like,
they had a very pleasant atmosphere. They were always very nice.
No, because I mean, like, these are the people who, like, Joe Biden owes these people who are being victimized by this. I mean, this is Democrat donor city right here that we're talking about.
Absolutely, because somebody who would be online trading like this, they're probably Democrats, as a rule. Like the people who are drawn into Robinhood, like it's very much, I mean, just even generationally, these millions of traders, we know, like the Republicans are losing the youth, like the overwhelming majority of them. I mean, I can even tell you from the chatter on, the places the traders congregate. Yeah, I mean, they're almost all Democrats. Your occasional right winger, but almost all Democrats. They're gonna have to shut this down because it really does fuck with the whole theory of Wall Street. This is how much of an impact this has had, because they're losing literally billions of dollars because of this. Some big firms and big hedge funds, the market tanked today, and that is probably why. Because that money's not sloshing around in the system. Now that money is in the bank account of a retail trader. Right? They stole the money back.
Right. I mean, this is like a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid type of thing, right? It's not the kind of thing that you can technically condone, but you like it. You know what I mean? Like, you like to see it, no?
I mean,
maybe not you.
I mean, I kind of condone it.
Okay.
Why would I not like it? I'm
well, you did well today. That's true. That's true. No, but I mean, like, if shit like this became the norm, it would definitely undermine the stability of the market. No, I mean, how could it not? I mean, how could every day on the stock market be like this? Again, I don't know anything. I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, that, you're a smart guy, so that's insightful. Even though you don't have experience with it, you're right. Like,
I'm a bit of a nihilist too. I don't particularly care, but I'm just saying, like, if you're in this world and you think, okay, if I'm doing this, if the health of the economy is, at least, a large part dependent on this, then how could you have any stability if this is the norm?
Well, this is the problem with it. If everyone just wants to buy stocks that are almost like campy to buy, like GameStop, man, I mean, that's kind of a joke.
It's a Blockbuster Video. I mean, it really
exactly.
is.
It's almost a campy sense of humor.
I don't think I've ever walked into a GameStop without thinking, how is this place still in business?
Right. There's one on 125th, or there was before.
There's one in Herald Square. It was a huge one. I don't know if it's still there. Probably not, but it was there a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. And also, look, it's probably partly you got this new generation trading. They probably have very fond childhood memories of GameStop. And, I mean, they're definitely openly saying with AMC, like, we're saving the movie theater business, right? Like, that's definitely part of the rationale.
Yeah.
GameStop, I mean, if you have half a brain, that's not savable.
No, but you're right.
Like, I don't care what you drive the stock price up to.
There's got to be some overlap between, like, avid gamers and stock players, right? I mean, it's the same.
It's very similar.
Same culture. The headphones, the computer all day, bag of chips or whatever. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah, well, you could say they had already been conditioned to be traders. They just didn't know it until a global pandemic locked them all in the house.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All these years of online role playing games had prepared them for a life in the stock market.
Right, exactly.
Yes, on an economic level, the problem with this is, look, I could see it in my other stocks that I'm holding, which are not driven by wild speculation. Everyone was pulling their money out of everything else today to buy those 4 stocks. So almost everything else was taking a hit today. Like companies that actually have value commensurate with their stock price.
If this were the norm, then it would really truly be gambling, right? Like there'd be no smart way to do it, would there? Because it would just be like putting a coin down a slot.
And this is why, and I said before we got online, I absolutely fucking hate this style of trading. That's a big part of why I do a lot more swing trading than day trading. And this is worse than normal day trading because, yes, it's total gambling. With a normal stock behaving in a normal way, stocks have patterns. They have price ranges. They have a bottom of their range that there's no such thing as safely buying a stock, but it's safe-ish. Okay, this stock always bounces off 270, right? I'm buying it at 271, right? Probably won't go under that. If it does, it probably won't go much under that. This, you're just flying blind. Oh, here's a stock that was trading at $3 last week. It's at 25. Where's the pullback that I should get in on? I have no fucking idea. Like it could be anywhere. So yes, it is just wild speculative gambling at that point. But in terms of the negative impact that this would have if this just continued like this, is man, the other companies I'm holding like actually deserve to be invested in.
Right.
And nobody wants them now because they're like, why the hell am I gonna wait to make a 400% gain on this stock when I could make that in the next 20 minutes if I just throw all my money into AMC,
right?
So yes, like as much as I hate to in any way, shape, or form take the side of the establishment, they're not wrong that this cannot continue. But there is a lot of market warping behavior going on from big institutions that they don't address. So there's just a huge hypocrisy in them clutching their pearls about this. As soon as it becomes retail and traders manipulating the market, all of a sudden they're very concerned about market manipulation.
Well, I mean, so this is the good thing that can come of this. Even if you don't endorse this as a normal way of doing business, you could say, hey, listen, you want there to be a crackdown on this type of shit, there's going to have to be a crackdown on the type of shit that you guys have been doing for years and not saying anything about it, which manipulation.
There won't be though. There won't be.
Right, but that's where you could say, okay, this actually does, as a matter of like a public policy standpoint, right? There is a potential upside because you have people crying foul over something just because they were victimized by it. Right. And so it is an opportunity to say, hey, listen, if we're going to crack down on this, we have to crack down on some of the, normal quote unquote behavior that's been going on.
Who's going to say
for
it
too long?
Nobody
in Joe Biden's administration, not Janet Yellen.
That's my point. That's my point. The issues.
Well, that's why. I mean,
the issues are too arcane to attract the public imagination. Look how much time we needed to spend even explaining what the fuck this is about, right? Like, how are you going to really get the public to care about it? And you've got an administration that's stacked like every administration before it with people from the finance industry who have absolutely no interest in doing anything about the legal and barely legal manipulation that goes on every day. So nothing's going to come of it. in my opinion.
Peter Dow put out a tweet. He said, "What do you think will happen first? The hedge funds will get bailed out, or people will get the $1,400 checks out the door?" Like, which of these two problems are they going to rectify first?
They can't. I mean, I can't see them bailing out these hedge funds. I don't think
because they're not big enough, right?
They're not big enough. It's not a threat to the national economy in a way that they could justify it.
Right.
But yeah, I would honestly be surprised because the legal route is going to take too long. I promise you, somebody called somebody at TD Ameritrade and leaned on them and said,
this will be resolved.
Do something about this.
Yeah, no, this will be resolved in the private sector. And who knows? I mean, while social media companies are on a censorship run, I mean, if Elon Musk can do this with a tweet, not that he did all of it, but he did a lot of it.
Oh, well, they're looking at Reddit. Reddit put out a statement. They'll cooperate with any legal inquiry. The SEC is saying they're going to look at this and see if this is stock manipulation. Of course, the counter argument is it's a freedom of speech issue. But you're right. Before it ever gets to court, they'll probably intimidate Reddit into taking down Wall Street conversations on their site. Although, I mean, that's a really slippery slope because, like, what do you do with stock twits? Like, what do you do with all Facebook groups? Like, there are a huge number of places where traders congregate. Like, are you going to shut them all down? Are people not allowed to discuss the stocks they're buying? Like, you'd have to cancel CNBC as an institution. You'd have to cancel Bloomberg. Like, it's just, these are fucking retail people. Look, the legal distinction, and I'm not going to argue that this isn't what's happening. It's not the normal buy this stock. It's a great company. It's going to go to the moon. It's going to be worth $20. You always get these wild predictions about stocks that people are excited about. That's different from, oh, GameStop, it's totally worthless, but you know what? Go buy it to break this hedge fund.
Right.
Like, the one is speech, the other is definitely stock manipulation. The question is that covered under speech, right?
Well, I don't think it is, right? I mean, the SEC, there are laws against that, aren't there?
There are, but it's what constitutes manipulation.
Right, because it's gray. On a social media thing, it's gray. Like, if I'm a broker and I call you up and I give you shit advice on purpose, that's illegal because that's proactive.
Sure. Well, you're also, I mean, it's like being a lawyer. You're held to a certain standard. You pass the bar, right? You're presumed to know what you're doing. Right. So, you're held to a higher standard. Right. But yeah, I mean, some schmuck in his mom's basement who's like, everybody go buy Nokia right now. Like, is you going to take him away in handcuffs? Because if you're going to take him away in handcuffs, there are a lot of motherfuckers who got away scot-free in 2008 who need to be in jail. So yeah, it's a complicated issue, but I got to say it is definitely a sign of the times that there has been a populist uprising aimed at destroying Wall Street institutions. It's pretty funny.